This is a voiceover for the processes used for the coin vault. The parts are cut on a CNC plasma cutter. They were designed in Fusion 360 and also programmed in Fusion 360. It's 14 gauge hot rolled steel, cutting at 40 amps and 130 inches a minute. 6 of these side pieces are nested together to save space on the sheet, and the bottom cover is cut out separately in a different section. One tab is holding the inside cutouts and the outside. Here you can see breaking away the tabs that extract the parts from the sheet metal. Throw away your scrap pieces. Here an air chisel is used to remove the slag. This is typically going to be the fastest way to remove the slag from the CNC plasma cut pieces. The angle grinder is a little loud and noisy. Air chisel's loud and noisy, but it seemed to be a lot faster. Loud and noisy are basically the same thing. Messy. No sparks. Here we're using a 90-degree die grinder to remove the little burr from the tab and beveling all of the edges on the parts. We're not really grinding the front surface of the sheet metal parts, we're just beveling the edges and removing the little bump from the tab. Here I'm grinding a little bit of the slag that was still left on after chiseling. That's only on the inside of the piece. Here you need to scrape away some of the plasma piercing that's stuck on top of the surface. Drilling out the holes to the correct size, number 21 drill bit, and also countersinking to deburr and add a little bit of chamfer around the hole. Drilling out the bolt holes with a decay bit gives you enough clearance for the 1/4 inch bolts, and also countersinking. Do a little cleanup with a rag, removing some of the plasma smoke and oil from the metal. This is probably the most complicated and involved step, and it involves getting your parts securely clamped to a piece of aluminum extrusion held at 90 degrees with Cleco clamps. Take your time and do this correctly, otherwise your box will come out crooked or have gaps that will be difficult to weld. When using Cleco clamps and welding, you want to make sure that your Cleco clamps do not touch the table. If the electric arc or current goes through the ground through the table, it will kind of damage the Cleco clamp. Just using some simple tacks to weld these together. You don't need to run a full bead, that's a little excessive. I guess you can if you want, but you'll probably end up grinding it down later. Just a tack on the left, tack on the right, tack in the middle, and then split the two differences to kind of get 5 equally spaced tacks along that edge. Here the part is held in a V-block, it's kind of clamped together to create a side assembly. Once again, taking your time, making sure everything is square and lined up. Installing the top does go on a specific way for the orientation of the coin slot, so take your time and make sure you do that correctly. And that's just kind of held in place with your fingers and go around and tack the corners and the rest of the tacks. You might have to hammer that seam in a little bit if it's a little bit big, depending on how well your box fits together. Install the bolt with the nut. Should be centered in the hole, and then you're going to tack weld the nut to that bottom piece, and hopefully not welding the bolt to the nut to the bottom piece. Install the bottom piece, hold it in place, and tack weld it on. That's the welded assembly. Now I'm disassembling the bottom piece and taking a wire brush on a drill to remove the weld smoke and kind of polish up the welds. Here, taking that 90-degree die grinder and sanding off some of the splatter that got stuck to the metal, and also adding a little grinding marks for the distressed look of the vault. And here, taking some sandpaper and kind of distressing it even more, kind of rubbing off the mill scale of the box to give it that old industrial look. Here the water jet is cutting out the coin slot out of some brass material. Grind off the burr from the tab with a Scotch-Brite disc and deburr the edges. Do a little wet sanding to polish and clean up, add a little bit of grain direction to the piece. And that's installed with Clecos, and use a pneumatic squeeze to squeeze the rivets. The windows cut out on the laser cutter. This will possibly be CNC router cut on the router with Lexan. This is acrylic. The acrylic does have a higher tendency to crack when squeezing the rivets, because the rivet expands in the rivet hole and therefore cracking the acrylic. So we're going to try Lexan if we don't have success with the acrylic. Here, install the cover plate. One of the bolts is going to have a little burr on it, and I had to grind it off a little bit. That burr was from welding. A little piece of splatter stuck to it. And that's it for the coin vault.